Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am glad you're here. And on this channel, I teach everything A Course in Miracles, right? I teach everything that's related to A Course in Miracles, to new minds, to transformation of mind, spiritual transformation, awakening, everything that's connected in that regard. The lesson for today, I was looking at that this morning, is God's voice speaks to me all throughout the day. And this is a very, very true statement, right? For many of us who've practiced this for a long time, this has become a reality. That you're constantly aware that you're being guided, that there is a voice speaking to you, and that it's indeed quite possible to listen to that voice regardless of what you're doing. In the midst of all activity, right? In all your doings, you can listen to God's voice. But it does take some practice, doesn't it? It truly does. It does include a stilling of the mind. In this lesson, he so beautifully says that try not to listen to the sounds of the world, right? Try to go past that. There's a door underneath your thoughts that's open and you can go past it. And beneath that is all the certainty and tranquility and rest, right? And clarity of thought that's accessible for anyone who's willing to go there. But it does require, for a moment, the admission that all the thoughts you're thinking now, right, are completely meaningless, right? This is the way he says it, so beautiful. It is quite possible to listen to God's voice all throughout the day without interrupting your regular activities in any way. The part of your mind in which truth abides is in constant communication with God, whether you're aware of it or not. There is a part of your mind that's in constant communication with truth. Right? The human condition is called the condition of split mind. Right? You have this part of your mind that functions in the world and is chaotic and fearful and doubtful and angry and right, just all over the place. And then there's a part of your mind that is in constant with God, in contact with God, that is quiet, that is certain, that is present, that is clear, right? But you can't have both. That's the cool thing. You can't be a little bit that and a little bit that, right? It's both, right? It's one or the other. So God's voice speaks to me all throughout the day. So beautiful. Let me see what else. I says, you do not live here. We're trying to reach your real home, right? We're trying to reach the place where you are truly welcome. We're trying to reach God, right? This world is not home to you. And somewhere in your mind, you know this is true. This is one of the other lessons. You do know it, right? You've never felt at home here, right? No matter how hard you try. And don't be conceived by those who pretend that this is their home. They also know that this is not their home. You can't find any rest here. You can't find any happiness here. You can't find any real belonging here, right? So yeah, we're trying to reach God. We're trying to reach your home. And that's within, right? Nor is this world without, right? We've talked about that. The world you see has nothing to do with reality. It was over a long time ago, right? One of the central thoughts of A Course in Miracles is what? There is no world. So the mind training practice of A Course in Miracles is truly a practice in remembering. It's a practice in quieting your mind. It's a practice in the recognition that the thing that you're identifying with, right? The thing that's so uncertain, fearful, angry, doubtful, right? All these things that we ascribe to ourselves as human beings is not what you are. One of the lessons that occurs 3 times, and it's the only lesson that occurs 3 times in the Course in Miracles is what? I am as God created me. There's a reason, right? There's a reason that that lesson occurs 3 times. And the reason is what? That it's one of the most important lessons. Right? You are still as God created you. You haven't changed yourself despite of what you may believe about yourself. But it does require that I detach myself from the thing that I've made of myself, correct? That I am not that thing that's so doubtful, that's so uncertain, that's so fearful, that doesn't know what it is, right? It requires the recognition that what? I'm whole and perfect as God created me, right? I didn't make myself. God created me perfect, right? I am as God created me. Going back for a moment to yesterday's lesson, which is so beautiful and so the opposite of the human condition, is there is nothing to fear. And I love the uncompromisingness of that statement, right? There is nothing to fear. He doesn't say, well, maybe some things are a little bit fearful, or some fears are justified, or, well, there's nothing to fear, but yeah, you know. No, he doesn't make that distinction. He said, no, there is nothing to fear. What you fear is nothing. Right? Now, that's the opposite of the human condition, isn't it? If you find yourself here on earth, you are fearful, whether you're aware of it or not. Right? One of those beautiful lines from the text says, no one but walks this world in armature. Right? Everyone here is constantly defending himself. Right? What might happen. Constantly. Right? And here's how he starts his lesson. It's so beautiful. The idea for today simply states a fact. It is not a fact to those who believe in illusions, but illusions are not facts. I love the logic of Jesus. You know, for many of us that have been practicing these lessons for many years, these kind of statements have become joyous, right? They feel good. You're not allowing for compromises anymore, right? Well, yeah, I mean, you might be fearful, but, you know, that means you're believing in illusions, and illusions are not facts, right? It's not an unjust denial, right? You're first going to maybe have to admit, well, yes, I am fearful. But then you go like, well, wait a minute. What I fear is nothing. I mean, literally nothing. Okay. In truth, there's nothing to fear. It is very easy to recognize this, but it's very difficult to recognize it for those who want illusions to be true. If you want this to be true, it's going to be hard to recognize that what? There's nothing to fear. So these kind of lessons, right, they bring about that change in mind that is necessary for salvation, for enlightenment. Because that change in thinking, from the thinking of the world to a whole-minded thinking, to true thinking, to thinking with God, that is that shift that A Course in Miracles tries to bring about in you. And that takes some training, right? It takes practice, it takes dedication, it takes perseverance, it takes all these things. But, right, as you practice these, you're being rewarded with that certainty, that freedom, that happiness that comes with that shift in thinking. And when you practice this for a while, and I say for a while as if this takes a long time, but it truly doesn't, right? This takes actually no time at all, right? But as you practice this, you can't really believe that you once thought the way the world thinks, right? Let's take a really controversial lesson, shall we? Shall we? Right? Let's take a really controversial lesson. How about, okay, sickness is a defense against the truth. Sit with that for a moment. Sickness, right? The condition of being sick is what? A defense against the truth. What's the truth? You are as God created you, right? So anytime you're sick, you're like, I'm defending myself, right? I'm back to my old way of thinking. What is my old way of thinking? I'm defending myself against the truth, right? I think I'm this thing, right? Living on earth in space-time with a certain name and a certain belief system and that I'm holding on to because my belief system is my identity. Right? I'm going to defend it because I lose myself, right? If I don't defend my little identity. But what? The identity has never given you anything that made you happy, right? It's miserable, right? It has moments of happiness, but only to a certain degree, right? It doesn't know what it is. Right? It tries to find happiness in a world full of misery and suffering, and it's never at rest. It has never given you anything that made you truly happy, and yet you defend it with all your might. Why is that? Because if you don't defend it, then God will come and rush in. He has no choice, right? God is everywhere. God is the mind with which you think, right? You're surrounded by the love of God, right? There is no place or state or situation where God is absent, right? So the moment you stop defending yourself, guess what? Right? And you're going to have to admit you've been wrong. You're going to have to admit that the little self that you made in opposition to the self that God made, as you truly are, is absolutely not real. You're going to have to admit for a moment that you were wrong about everything. And your sense of self-worth, self-worth comes, right, crashing down. Right? That's the fear. The fear is that God comes in. You're afraid of the love of God. How insane that may sound. This is very, very true. You're afraid of love, right? That's the human condition. But the more you can look at that with an open mind, right, the more ridiculous it becomes. And hopefully then the more willing you'll become to no longer do that. That's the practice of the workbook of A Course in Miracles. It truly is that simple, right? This little self, right, that you put out there with a front, right? Everyone here walks in this world walks with a front, right? Oh, let me pretend to be happy, or let me pretend to be this, or let me pretend to be that, because otherwise everyone sees I'm a fraud. Right? I love it. I love the clarity and the simplicity of A Course in Miracles. Right? What's today's lesson again? God's voice speaks to me all throughout the day. Fact. Well, if that's true, I want to be able to hear it. I want to listen to it. I want to be aware of it. No matter what I seem to be doing, that's what I want to do. So practice these lessons. Get yourself a copy of A Course in Miracles, right? Start practicing it. Start reading it. It has a lot to offer. It has everything to offer, right? Yes, there's a universal course, right? The universal course in knowing thyself, right? The universal course is know thyself. Course in Miracles is a special form. What's so nice about A Course in Miracles is that it speeds up time, right? Something that may take you 1,000 years will now only take you a moment. Because what? The miracle, which is a correction, right? In your thoughts, in your belief system, snaps out time, right? It realigns it from the horizontal to the vertical, right? And in that sense, this course is really, really created to save you time, right? This does not take a long time, right? So, beautiful lesson. So I'm glad you joined me here today just to kind of get together, practice these lessons, because many, many of us around the globe, right, have felt, right, the vibration, the vibrational energy that these lessons bring about in you, right? It's like you're being raised in your frequency as you practice these lessons, right? And you're starting to remember. You're having all kinds of experiences, right? Light experiences, you name them, right? And they are just glimpses into reality, and they bring the conviction that what? There is no world, right? Because there truly isn't a world, right? The world you see is a projection of your mind. All right. Well, thank you for joining me here today. I'm glad you were here. And if you like these videos, please give them a thumbs up and subscribe. And have a great day.